Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
Well, good morning, one and all. It is 5:07 a.m. on News Talk 105.9 WMAL. We are making sense of the news. I am Andrew Langer in today for Larry O'Connor. Sitting beside me, the lovely Mercedes Schlapp. Good morning, Mercy.
Good morning, Andrew. It's great to be with you. I know that the wedding bells are happening in California, right? The wedding, the infamous wedding of
Bells
the beautiful
will be
daughter
ringing.
of Larry O'Connor. So we're so excited about that.
I am reading these touching tributes, the touching tribute that Larry wrote. It is, we are all, here's the thing. Maybe we'll talk about this later on if we get a chance, because I have a good friend whose son is graduating from high school, and she is just sort of sitting here freaking out over the passage of time. I've been down this road. I know I'm going to freak out when my girls get married. We should talk, Mercy, about how we navigate these life-changing moments in our kids' events. I think.
Well, yeah, I've got two graduations: a high school graduation and a college graduation this year. So
Crazy.
That's why you have to have multiple children, because then you're not so attached to just one thing happening.
The parenting never ends. I know. We're also going to talk about this later on, because I had to be a parent this week and not invite one of my kids to the Caps game last night, and she was very salty. But it's her last week of college classes. I'm like, honey, you got to go to class. Anyway, guys, we got an action-packed show today. We got Michael Toth. He's an attorney talking about Supreme Court arguments yesterday over religious charter schools. Huge issue. We've got Dr. Ben Carson, Mercy, joining us to talk about the 100 days of the Trump administration. Nick Minock from WJLA is going to be joining us in the 7 a.m. hour. Let's start here. I love this headline, even from Fox News. Has to get stilted here. Vance breaks key tie after Senate fails to reject Trump's national emergency on tariffs. This is big stuff. A couple of folks sitting out. Sheldon Whitehouse, Mitch McConnell sitting out of this vote. But this is big stuff. I mean, obviously, Republicans are very nervous about tariffs and concerned about tariffs. I'm a little less concerned about it. I'm concerned about the messaging. But Mercy, your thoughts here. You've been watching us tear ourselves apart over stuff.
Yeah, well, look, I think for the most part, it's important to understand that President Trump, I think actually on the messaging, the Secretary of Treasury, Scott Bessent, President Trump, they're all very much in line of why they have to do what they're doing. It's just such a bigger argument here of saying, look, our trade relationships are not where they need to be. They don't benefit the American worker. They don't benefit the American farmer. China is the one that's benefiting the most. And there needs to be a way that we decouple from China.
Right.
And there needs to be a way that we get these better deals. And so I tell you, though, there is, I think, a bit of jittery, feelings amongst obviously the corporations,
right,
the business community, consumers, because they're saying, wait a second. We have high cost of living. This is why we didn't support a Joe Biden. Here we have President Trump. We're giving you a shot. We want this to be done the right way. And it was interesting because even with Republicans that I was with this past week, and they were saying they're kind of nervous about the tariffs,
right? Because
they're saying, are we going to see prices go down? Are we going to, ensure that this is not going to get out of control? I mean, there's talks about a recession, but the reality is that I think President Trump said it right, which is, look, we're going to go through some pain. We're going to get through it. And so he is really rolling the dice on this of, saying from a high risk perspective, are we going to have high risk, high rewards, or is this going to be a little more, or are we going to, we're going to get stuck where the Democrats are saying, oh my goodness, and some Republicans are saying, yeah, these tariffs are harmful. So what's your sense,
Here's
Andrew?
the thing. So I had a conversation about this with Steve Moore yesterday. It follows on a conversation I had last week. And there's a really great piece out of Steve Moore's Unleash Prosperity Hotline that things are not as economically bad as the left is saying that it is. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in a second. But here's what I come back to, Mercy, is there are two things that are going on. There is the market volatility, and the market volatility is going to continue so long as the leftist press keeps shouting to the high heavens that the sky is falling, right? The more anxiety you produce, the more that's going to be reflected in the markets. And that's one thing. The markets are going to go down, they're going to go up, and things have pretty much come back from where they were before. But it's the price issue. And we have to be really careful, by the way. This is part of what I was talking about with Steve Moore. I hope that we haven't overpromised as conservatives, as Republicans, as what have you, because we don't want prices to come down precipitously. That's a problem in the economy in and of itself. We want price stability. We don't want prices to go up, obviously. And until I see the tariffs starting to have a real impact on prices, which I don't think they're going to do, and here's why. Two things. Number one, I think the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, once we make that permanent, that's going to give our economy a massive boost. That's going to help with issues of productivity and sort of deal with this. And then there's the regulatory issues, which is what I deal with in our work at CPAC. If you don't massively jack up the cost of regulation, right? Regulations were growing at 15% a year under Joe Biden. That's a huge cost. If we're not adding $600 billion a year in regulatory costs, that will offset any costs of tariffs, right? If you it's not complex math here that you have to do. So I'm not all that concerned. But on this issue, Mercy, and this vote yesterday, 49-49, so the tariffs are going to continue. They didn't break the emergency. This is big because we've been promised the economic benefits of the work that DOGE is doing. And Steve Moore has this great piece that while U.S. GDP shrank slightly in the first quarter, slightly, like 1/3 of 1%, it's almost unmeasurable. Government spending is down 3%, and that may not seem like much, but that's huge. And when you understand that the gains that Joe Biden added to the economy, or supposedly added to the economy, largely came from government spending, it shows you how our economy can be addicted to government spending and how bad that is, but also that it's not the real picture, that there's a lot of artificiality going on here. Those are my thoughts there.
Well, I want to add, though, what we're starting to see now is that the tariffs are starting to take toll on the China economy.
Right.
It's showing that because they've had the issues with the export orders, they're really they're starting to struggle. So, and last night I had heard these stories about China's economy actually doing better, and it was the other way around. Well, it doesn't seem to be the case as we're starting to see these prices. And one of the key points here was to, instill a bit of damage on China, which has never, there is talk about the fact that they've spied on us. They've taken our intellectual property. They've hacked into our systems. I mean, it's like there needs to be this sense of drawing the line of how much we want to be dependent on China. And that's I almost think that's a real political question and politically philosophical question to have at this moment in time in the United States, from a national security perspective, from an economic security perspective.
Listen, we have to take stock of this. It's so funny on this issue of protectionism and trade and manufacturing. It's a debate that our colleague David Safavian and I used to have all the time, because I'm someone who believes in the Jones Act, which is an ancient act. It's over 100 years old, designed to protect American shipping and shipbuilding. And there's a huge attack on the part of our good friends in the free market limited government space. This is just too protectionist and it doesn't do what it needs to do. But yet we have to do these things for protecting ourselves. We got to, so we're going to talk more about this in a moment. Trump had a big event yesterday with top executives to talk about the rehoming of American manufacturing, including U.S. pharmaceuticals. But first, it's 5:15.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
So, Mercy, it's interesting. Part of the work that I do with you at CPAC, I run our Coalition Against Socialized Medicine. I was in a meeting last week talking about the issue of tariffs and talking about the issue of manufacturing. and the importance of moving a lot of this manufacturing here at home. We have news. It's starting to happen. The president had an event yesterday at the White House. As we're talking about this, right, there are three things they're trying to do with tariffs. I'm not sure that they can do all three at the same time, right? Some of it is about raising revenue. Some of it is about making trade more fair. And some of it is about bringing jobs home. And it's those two things that I think are the most important, the last two. I think the issue of bringing manufacturing home is vitally important, as you point out, for security reasons, and then also making it more fair so we can sell our stuff abroad. This is big stuff, this meeting yesterday, isn't it? I mean, you've been to these meetings. These are vital, and it shows how things are working.
Yeah, and look, I think when you've got, for example, that the media narrative is like NPR headline, the U.S. economy shrinks as Trump's tariffs spark recession fears. And so you have, the media trying to push it into one direction. And then all of a sudden you're seeing all these companies invest in the United States. It's remarkable. I mean, you look at the fact that yesterday Samsung was there. They're going to build these massive facilities within the United States. I think we're talking about over $5 trillion in investments overall that we've seen from not only American companies, but also foreign companies as well. And I think, look, it's a critical message for the president to show, because he does have to create, Andrew, certainty, right? The fact is saying, hey, guys, just trust in me. We're going to get through this together. But for the businesses, all the big talk is, and the consumers, is the uncertainty around what's happening with these tariffs.
Right.
And the fact is you got to start seeing these trade agreements happening with these countries, so that there is some of the sense that the ball is moving forward. It's moving forward quickly, and we can get to the other side.
It's two parts, right? It is, getting the better deals, right? That's the news story in and of itself, and it has the long-term effect. But you hit the nail on the head, Mercy, talking about this issue of certainty. And the big thing with the Biden administration and the Biden White House, and part of the reason why, remember, they continued a bunch of the Trump tariffs. And prices went up because they were not dealing with anything else in their economy. But if you're going to be deregulatory and you're going to say America is a place that is open for business, folks are going to invest here at home, right? Remember, the reason why so much stuff is made in China, as you pointed out, they steal our intellectual property. They use slave labor to build it, and they have none of the environmental safeguards that we have. And guess what? If you simply, and we know we're cutting our regulation, and Donald Trump did an unprecedented job at cutting regulation in his first term, but even if you just kept regulatory costs constant, that has sends a huge signal to business that it's time to open up here. Go ahead.
I want to add something, too.
Please.
We were just meeting with some of the folks at OpenAI, and they were explaining that so many of the chips that are being made in Taiwan. So just think about that, Andrew. If China invades Taiwan, which is always a possibility, as we know, that in itself, we lose about 90% of that, of getting chips imported into the United States. So they're trying to figure out ways, how do we get these chips to be made here in the United States? And this, again, raises a question about, what does this mean for our national security?
100%, and you keep mentioning chips, and I really want some chips right now. Listen,
hungry,
there's so much more to get to right now. It's 5:22 a.m. here on WMAL. Wow. So, Mercy, I know you're not a big time hockey fan, but last night was astounding. I mean, it was. So I went to last night's Caps game. Kudos to the Washington Capitals. They have now advanced to the next round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. They're going to be taking on the Carolina Hurricanes. In fact, taking on the Carolina Hurricanes here at home. Mercy, have you never gone to a Caps game?
No, I have not. I'm not a huge hockey fan, but you were so excited about talking about it that when we first were prepping for the show, you were like, did you know about the Caps game?
Oh, my God.
Did you know about the Caps game?
Oh, my God.
So I was like, I guess I better know about the Caps game.
Listen,
so I have not gone.
Oh, I will tell you something. You should try to go to one of these games if you can. I mean, even if you don't go this year, try to go next year, because the fandom...
Andrew, do you know my schedule? Like, I can barely... While you were in the Caps game, I was helping my 7th grader study math for her
it's so funny
math test today.
Because I had this conversation because I had one child who wanted to go to the game last night. She's in her last week of her college classes, and I'm thinking, no, you can't go. It's your last week of school, and that you will have time down the road. Let me tell you something. This Caps fandom is amazing. That's the story in all of this. Obviously, Caps were amazing. Great game last night. Ovi scored, which was fantastic. Mercy, Ovechkin is a storied, Washington Capitals player. He broke Wayne Gretzky's record a couple of weeks ago for most goals scored in a professional hockey career regular season. Go ahead.
You know what my favorite part is? We beat the Canadians.
Yes. That was
to me the biggest part.
The amazing
4-1,
thing last night.
Washington Capitals beat the Montreal Canadiens. I was all for it.
It was amazing. The amazing moments where people were booing the Canadian anthem and then people applauding at the end. But it was unbelievably cool to be there. But the excitement is absolutely palpable.
So what happens now? Do they go to the playoffs?
So now they go to the next round of the playoffs. So the first round of the playoffs is done. Now they go to the second round of the playoffs. They take on the Carolina Hurricanes. The first two games are going to be here at home. I don't think they've set the schedule yet. That's amazing to see. But it is a true excitement watching this team play. It's funny because we've been to a couple of games this year. And it's like someone flips a switch for these playoff games. And the Caps wanted it last night. And this is pretty much all I'm going to say about this. The Caps definitely wanted it last night. They wanted to win at home. And it was just unbelievable. Listen, we got so much to get to on the show. Really amazing stuff going on. And speaking of which, amazing, palpable energy. We've got a Ukraine minerals deal. We're going to be talking about that, what that means. New news about Abrego Garcia. Check that out. I'm Andrew Langer. She's Mercedes Schlapp. This is O'Connor and Company on WMAL. It's 5:30 in the morning.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. WMAL. News now. Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
Well, rabbit, one and all. I missed this at the top of the show. Happy May Day, one and all. It is the 1st of May. It's going to be May. It is 5:37 right here on News Talk 105.9 WMAL. We are making sense of the news. Happy Thursday. I am Andrew Langer in for Larry O'Connor. Today, as he celebrates the nuptials of a child, Mercy Schlapp joining me. Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm just watching this whole first 100 days of Trump and seeing how much work they've gotten done. I mean, it keeps not only the cabinet busy, but the rest of us busy too, trying to cover it all.
Holy cow, yes, it keeps the rest of us busy. Those of us in the regulatory world, toiling in the fields of regulation, are always busy these days. Listen, we got a great show. We got Michael Toth joining us in a little bit. He is an attorney talking about yesterday's Supreme Court arguments on charter schools. We got Ben Carson joining us to talk 100 days. He's going to be in the 7 a.m. hour. Also, Nick Minock from WJLA joining us. I am Andrew Langer in for Larry O'Connor, as I said. And so, Mercy, let us set the Wayback Machine back a couple of months ago. Much apparent egg, if you listen to the leftist press, much egg on Donald Trump's face for daring to say that the United States should put its interests first in dealing with the Ukraine-Russia situation. Volodymyr Zelensky not having it. Here is what happened in the Oval Office just a couple of months ago. Michael, go ahead and play cut number 5.
But you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You don't
God
know
bless.
That.
You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because
I'm
you're in no
answering
position
on
to
this question.
dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly
this.
I'm not
You're in
dictating.
no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position.
Okay.
You've allowed
From
yourself
very-
to be in a
from
very
the
bad
very
We can edit
position.
there. I just, it's a situation in which I think Zelensky was operating under the impression that Donald Trump was someone that you could mess around with, and it didn't happen. So that's how it started, Mercy. Here's not how it ended, but here is what happened yesterday. Let's go ahead and play cut number 6.
Thanks to President Trump's tireless efforts to secure a lasting peace, I am glad to announce the signing of today's historic economic partnership agreement between the United States and Ukraine, establishing the United States-Ukraine Reconstruction Investment Fund.
All right, that was Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent talking about this deal. We've got a mineral deal, and this is huge, to use the vernacular, because it shows that we can have a foreign policy in which America actually benefits down the road while benefiting the partners who want us to work with them. Mercy, this is part of what we're working on here at CPAC, isn't it? Sort of understanding, making sure our allies understand that we're trying to get the best deals out there, aren't we?
Yeah, look, this is critically important because we know that in the situation with Russia and Ukraine, you're going to start seeing Russia move forward with a spring offensive attack into Ukraine. I mean, so Russia's not letting up. Russia's doing this mini ceasefire right now because they're celebrating remembering the Soviet Union's victory in World War II.
Oh, yes.
So they're doing
the glorious victory of the motherland over the oppressive Huns of Germany.
Yeah, so the 72-hour ceasefire with Ukraine, they don't seem serious, like they want peace. So I think that moment where President Trump met with President Vladimir Zelensky at the Vatican was critical because that's the moment that I think they really moved forward with saying we need to sign this agreement, this rare minerals agreement. It's going to be helpful for Ukraine. It'll be helpful for the Ukrainian people. I hate to say it, but we've sent over $78 billion to Ukraine with nothing in return.
That's exactly it. Yes.
This is an opportunity to say, okay, look, you got to be held accountable with all this money that we've given you. This is the right approach if you're serious about having a strong relationship with the U.S. So I think Zelensky made the right move in signing this historic agreement, which I also believe will help in reconstruction. I'm going to say if the war ends, because I don't see the war ending necessarily.
Well, I mean, listen, it depends on what we mean, right? We, as conservatives, tend to have a very different view of what peace means, as opposed to the left. But there are always concessions, right? Tyrion Lannister on Game of Thrones, and I'm not sure if you were a Game of Thrones fan, Mercy, but put it best, we negotiate with our enemies. We don't have to negotiate with our friends. At least we shouldn't have to negotiate with our friends. And so in any negotiation, there is a give and take. I know we're going to be talking about May Day in a little bit. I come to my conservatism via ardent anti-communism. I was a Soviet studies major in college. And so sort of understanding this Russian mindset is something that I've dealt with over the years. And the reality is that we're going to have to get concessions, but we have to have our interests protected if we're going to go down this road. This is a great deal. It's a great deal for Ukraine. It's a great deal for the United States. We're going to get a lot out of it down the road. Anyway, it's a mineral deal, rare earth minerals, which, by the way, we were talking earlier, Mercy, about our competition. Use that term loosely. Our competition with China. China is going after rare earth minerals all around the world. And thank goodness we have a source in Ukraine. We don't have to start drilling underneath the sea floor to get them. We got more coming up. It's 5:43 here on WMAL.
Mark Levin, weekdays 6 till 9 on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
Just when you thought it couldn't get any better, we got more news on the Kilmar Abrego Garcia story. Mercy, are you surprised that there was a second protective order that Abrego Garcia's wife filed against him?
No, he's a family man. What are you talking about?
Yes.
Of course I'm surprised. This is shocking. Completely shocking.
It's amazing to me. We are supposed to believe all women except for when that doesn't fit the prevailing narrative here. I mean, between this story and the story of the Wisconsin judge letting the domestic abuser go, And the Democrats falling all over themselves to talk about how this is fascism because someone violating federal law was actually arrested by federal authorities for violating federal law. But, this is the problem, right? The Democrats pin their hopes on these figures in order to fit this political narrative, and they seem surprised or they try to spin away when we discover just how awful these people are.
Yeah, and look, I think in this case, you see the second protective order. The wife is accusing him of physical abuse, threatening her. Says she has a recording where he says even if he kills her, nobody can do anything to him. I mean, this is a violent man, someone who should not be here in the United States. He is associated with MS-13.
Right.
They obviously got stopped in Tennessee where he was borrowing a car of who he said was his boss, but this was someone also accused of human trafficking. He's a bad man, a bad hombre, has no right to be in America, and yet there's still this legal battle that's happening between the Trump administration and the courts, basically saying you need to facilitate the return of this man. That doesn't seem to be moving forward. I know Attorney General Pam Bondi addressed this issue, Andrew.
Here's the thing that gets me, right? And again, getting back to how bereft of merit the Democrats' position is in all of this, because it's not about due process. Right, if it was really about due process,
that's what the right. I mean, that's what the left is saying.
Well, that's what they're claiming, right? But if it was really about due process, then they would sort of understand that even if Will Chamberlain, Larry and Julie interviewed Will Chamberlain a couple of weeks ago from the Article 3 Project, and he made an important point, which is to say that Abrego Garcia could have been taken anywhere but El Salvador. Right, they could have sent him to some island nation in the middle of the Pacific, right, and that would have been perfectly legal. That would have been perfectly within his due process rights. But you guarantee that the left would have been angry about that as well because they love every illegal immigrant who's here. They need them for their votes. They want them to stay here. So these issues of due process aside, it's just astounding to me. But yeah, we got this situation in which we get these abusers who are being protected. So this order from 2020, this is not some ancient order, right? This is less than 5 years ago. It sheds even more light on his violent past. This is the document here. I was in fear of my life, basically. Handwritten document that she wrote. And it's separate from the other protective order that was against him. I am afraid. Go ahead.
But don't worry. Do not worry, because Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen is all over the case.
Oh, yes.
He just wrote a letter to President Trump over the administration's neglect in deporting the Maryland man, as they call him. So this is, again, trying to say what needs to happen to get him, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, back into El Salvador. But you know what was an interesting scoop is that Hakeem Jeffries is now saying no more trips to El Salvador.
There you go.
Telling the Democrats, hey, no more traveling there. But I can't believe Van Hollen. I mean, his obsession with Abrego Garcia is so appalling, where he does not hone in on his own residents, on his own citizens, instead focused on an MS-13 gang member.
Says nothing about Rachel Moore.
Not letting up.
Nothing about Rachel Moore until finally pressed in the wake of all of this. And it is, here's the thing, right? Their spin is, well, it's not just about Abrego Garcia. You know something? You're absolutely right. It's not just about Abrego Garcia. You made it about Abrego Garcia, and then it blew up in your face, right? But it's not. It is about violent criminals coming into the United States, just the gates being open. Here's the thing that gets me real quick, Mercy, because I know we're up on a break. Joe Biden swore up and down. This is the thing that came out of the interview with Terry Moran 2 nights ago that the president did, in which Terry Moran says, I question your methods, or do you feel bad about it? Whatever he said about the methods. Joe Biden was telling America for 4 years that there was nothing he could do about the border. Guess what? We demonstrated that he was wrong. Much more to get to. It's 5:53 a.m. James Carville is doing a bit of hog wrestling. We're going to be talking about that. The aquatics director in Loudoun County aquatics director was fired. We got Oh, good Lord. Who do we have? Oh, we got all kinds of folks coming up in the next hour. Oh, Michael Toth is going to be joining us the next hour. Talk about Supreme Court arguments in charter schools. Oh, and I just had a big scare. Apparently, there is not going to be a Lethal Weapon reboot. So stay tuned for that. I'm Andrew Langer. That's Mercy Schlapp. This is O'Connor and Company right here on WMAL. It's 6 a.m.